Hello everybody and welcome back. Thank you for joining me today. I'm going to be discussing the differences between the divine masculine and the divine feminine and the androgynous nature of the divine. So let's get started. I think this is actually a really important topic, the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and the androgynous nature of the divine, because we tend to mix up masculine and feminine and the divine masculine and the divine feminine. And we need to remember that it's not just gender identity when we talk about divine masculine and divine feminine. It's two halves of one whole, as opposed to how humans have been defined and identified predominantly as male and female. Male and female and masculine and feminine and divine masculine and divine feminine are very different energies, and I think it's really good to actually define those. So this all goes back to what you believe, and if you don't resonate with what I'm saying, that's completely fine. We all have our own unique connection to source and our unique understanding, especially for each lifetime, as to what that and the universe or God or Goddess is. So I'm just going to share my understanding and my perspective, and if it resonates with you, that's cool, and if it doesn't, that's also cool. So back in 2012, when I went for healing, when I was suffering with depression, I would lie on the couch and a lot of downloads came to me about how the universe was created, what each soul is, how we got here, etc., etc. And it blew my mind how incredible it was, and it really helped me to have a unity or a oneness perspective. So I have always seen it and understood it and received it as a download to be that the universe and the creator of all there is, and I'm just going to use that terminology because creator is a word that we can all get on board with, I hope. So I see it as the creator, and we are part of that creator, is a huge expanse of energy. In my mind, it's always this kind of iridescent bluey white colour, but that's only because of my own visuals, and it's probably likely that there is no colour to it. And this huge expanse of energy is all of our souls put together with the creator of all that is kind of infused into that. There's no separation, we are all connected, we are all one. So to me, it's just a huge ball of energy. It's a bit like when you light an incense stick and the smoke wafts away. There's no separation really from any of the aspects of the smoke. And that's very much how I see this blanket of oneness or the unity consciousness. And I remember reading in, I think it's a book by Diana Cooper about Atlantis, that when the first souls came to Earth to try out for the Council of Light's experiment on Earth, and experiment more as in a challenge, not as in weird tests or scientific tests, that the souls came down and they were such high vibrational souls, they almost were just made out of light body, which again to me is just a form of energy. And the way I visualize it and understand it is that they were almost how we would think of as ghosts, you know, kind of see-through, didn't really have a definition to their body, if you like. And they came down, and because they were such high vibrational beings already, they couldn't progress, they couldn't grow. And so the experiment was technically a failure. So these souls went back to Source, to Creator, and said, we can't grow, we can't expand, can you do something to help us? And so they were given more of a dense body and they were brought down and tried again. However, they were androgynous because everything outside of Earth in creator or spiritual realm is androgynous because it is just energy. Energy doesn't have a gender. So they came down and they tried again, but they found that they actually felt quite lonely and they felt quite disconnected and separate. You know, this is the first time that they'd been away from Source, perhaps for some of them. And so they went back to Creator and said, actually, can we be divided into two and there be a male and female version of us? And so they came down again, and that is when the male and female identity was created for the humanoid form. And this is the beginning of twin flames. That's how the twin flame soul is created. One soul split into two to be the masculine and the feminine. Because of course, Earth is a place of duality. So there will be an opposite to everything. When we go back up, everything comes together. It's all one. When we come down to Earth, it splits and separates. And then from those twin flames, obviously they created life. They gave birth to children and so on and so forth. Blah, blah, blah. Now this is just part of the creation that I understand and I connect and resonate with. If you want to stick with Adam and Eve, that's completely fine. Or if you have another way of understanding or seeing it, that's also completely fine. So everything in spirit is androgynous. However, people who are mediums and psychics who work with spirit, or just people who happen to have seen spirit, will often relate a gender version of it. So for example, when people see archangels, they will often say, oh, Archangel Michael, Archangel Gabriel, he looked like this, he looked like that. But actually the reason that they have a he in the first place is that spirit understands that humans respond better to other humanoid forms. If it was just some big shiny ball of light body energy, they might not be able to describe anything and therefore people wouldn't believe them. But when you can give a detailed description of what spirit looked like when it visited you and had a message for you, that's more believable, right? People are more likely to listen to your message. So truly what spirit does is when it appears in front of a human, it will often take a humanoid form so that humans feel more comfortable around them and they're able to witness and listen to the message, or perhaps just receive the vision that they need to. But that is just to help humans. In their truest form, spirits and angels and archangels, etc., are just beams of energy, beams of light. So again, there is no gender. I would say it's slightly different with ascended masters, because ascended masters are essentially people who have been incarnate on Earth and then they've lived such a profound lifetime that they have become an ascended master and therefore can come back down and offer help and guidance and support and encouragement to people on their journeys on Earth. For example, we have Green Tara, Isis, we have Jesus, we have Buddha, just to name a few people who were physically here and then ascended. Of course, you may not agree with this, that again is fine. And again, we could look at that as the same thing for the gods and goddesses in different cultures. These are either people who became like gods to their people, or they are spirits who came down to help people and recognized, for example, that the women in the community needed a female goddess to show them how to be nurturing, how to look after the family, how to participate and embody aspects of the divine feminine. And the same for men. Men needed male gods to come forth and teach them how to hunt and to take action and fight for what they believed in, to step forth in that divine masculine role. So we have male and female, and we have masculine and feminine, and divine masculine and divine feminine. So the divine aspects of each are just that. They are the light, good, positive, loving qualities of each of them. They are the whole of what they are at the end of the day. So the divine feminine is very much about nurturing, caring, loving, unconditional love and compassion for others, whereas the divine masculine is about taking action, stepping forth into the world, having this kind of vigor or spring-like quality to it. Then we have masculine and feminine, which I would say is almost a step down from that, and that's when it can become the toxic masculine and the toxic feminine. There is no such thing as the toxic divine masculine or the toxic divine feminine. If it is divine, then it is sacred, it is holy, it cannot be anything other than divinely loving. That is all that there is outside of Earth. In the spiritual realm is just divine love, unconditional compassion, and the highest truth of all. So you can only have a toxic version of just the masculine or just the feminine. And we understand the toxic masculine as what we call the patriarchy, being over-dominant, over-powerful, greedy, focused on their own selfish needs and gains. And the same for the toxic feminine. The toxic feminine would be ignoring sisterhood, pushing other women to the side so that you can advance and get ahead in a man's world. Then we have male and female, which is just a term that humans have used to define and identify each other. And the great thing is that we're starting to move beyond those two limiting ways of seeing humans and have, non-binary and transgender, LGBT plus community is really helping humans and Earth to advance in that way. But of course, the female would be recognized for the female body parts and the female genitalia, and the male would be recognized for the male body parts and the male genitalia. That's the only difference that there really truly is in terms of female and male, is the physical aspects. It's the masculine and the feminine that are the energetic, spiritual qualities that you bring forth. And of course, because we are about that yin and that yang balance, that as a woman, I will experience and have within me a masculine and a feminine side, just like we have a left and a right brain side. And a man will have a feminine and a masculine aspect to him. Whether we tap into that and access the divine masculine and the divine feminine qualities is entirely up to us. Energy is neutral, and it's totally up to us how we connect to it and embody it. And I think it's really important that we accept and integrate that each of us is made up of a masculine and a feminine aspect. And it's only when we return to source that we will return to the unity consciousness that is our truth and who we really are. Ultimately, it doesn't actually really matter what your gender is. What matters is your balanced expression and connection with the divine masculine and the divine feminine. Are you tapping into that divine masculine aspect? And are you able to take action in a loving way by infusing that divine feminine energy into it? Or are you somebody who's just pushing to get ahead, interrupts other people, doesn't care about other people, pushes your opinions down other people? And that's the thing with masculine and divine masculine. A divine masculine is assertive in a loving way, whereas the masculine and the toxic masculine is pushy with its energy. It's overbearing, overpowering, over-dominating. And the same with the feminine. It can go both ways. Perhaps the feminine is too gentle and easily overpowered or disempowered by others. Or perhaps she is stepping into that aspect where she is trying to be masculine, and yet that isn't what the feminine is about. The feminine isn't about pushing and being overbearing. It's about the presence and the holding and the witnessing and the being that aura, that nurturing aura for other people, to welcome them in and hold them in that space when they need help, guidance, love, healing, etc. So I hope that this video has helped bring some clarity towards the differences and how to understand the differences between male and female, which is just your physical gender, and again, that isn't actually that important, and the masculine and the feminine, which can become toxic, and finally the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and of course how when we return we are just that androgynous nature. Even though we have commonly called the creator God, it is just an androgynous energy. So if you found this video interesting, or if you have learned something new, or if you'd like to share your opinion, please do in the comments below. I always welcome loving and interesting and positive feedback and comments where we can start a nice healthy discussion. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in next week's video.